I want to welcome you to my kitchen. My name is Jessie, and this is Stone Soup Substitutions channel. I would like to introduce myself officially and introduce what I am about, what my kitchen oftentimes sees, and what I would like to show on this channel. About 8 years ago, I realized that I could not have gluten. When I had found this out, I had kind of suspected for a little while, but I was very resistant to the idea, and it was challenging because I really loved baking. I loved cooking, and cooking generally is not the problem. It's baking. You can't just take gluten-free flour, no matter how wonderful the blend is of flour, and substitute that for wheat flour and have perfect bread. You just can't. Gluten-free bread doughs are not needed. It doesn't do anything. It's just a whole different animal to bake with gluten-free flours as it is to bake with normal gluten flour. So that took a very long time, about 6 years, before I finally figured out how to make gluten-free bread. I knew it was possible because I was buying it for insane amounts of money at the grocery store whenever I wanted it. Not whenever I wanted it, because I didn't have insane amounts of money ever, and so I couldn't just buy it all the time. So I had tried very hard to try to figure out how to bake a loaf of bread, and it took me 6 years before I finally figured out that you can't it's not a one-for-one flour substitution when you're talking about bread. Anyhow, so I figured that out finally, which was amazing. It was great. And then I had a dairy problem for a little while, so I'm pretty familiar with cooking dairy-free. And then about three years ago, I found out that my son and I both have a corn allergy, and so when I went gluten-free, I thought, oh my goodness, gluten is just in everything. And then when I had to go dairy-free for a little while, I thought, oh my goodness, I thought that gluten was in everything. That's not accurate. It's milk that's in everything, is dairy. And then I went corn-free. Just forget it. Corn is in so much, you would not even believe it. The biggest problem is there are so many ingredients derived from corn, and those affect us. So I have to, pull up those lists online when I'm at the grocery store and I see something interesting that looks like it could be safe, but there's some odd looking ingredients. I have to make sure that they're not on the corn list, and sometimes they are, and then we just move on, and we're glad for the internet that I can quickly look that up and not get us sick. So anyway, I have spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to cook with all of these substitutions and restrictions, and I would love to bring you along with me to show you as I learn, because I am still learning for sure, and just some tricks that I've found out along the way. And it's very overwhelming if you're in this position. It is very overwhelming to have this restriction put on you suddenly, because it's usually a sudden thing, right? Especially if you really enjoy cooking, especially if you really enjoy baking. I will say that I do miss baking regular gluten bread. I was just talking to a friend about that this weekend, that I just miss kneading dough, and that's not something you do with a gluten-free bread. So maybe one day when we don't have kids in the house who might eat it, I might bring in some gluten flour again. I will never be able to eat it, but I do miss baking with it. There is a joy to baking with wheat that just isn't there with the gluten-free. However, the challenge of trying to figure out how to make foods that are good and not taste like cardboard, because that's the saying, right? Is, oh, it's a pizza on cardboard. It is a challenge, and I am up for it, and I love it. So as much as I do miss having bread dough to knead, I do enjoy having the challenge of figuring out how to make things like pizza that doesn't taste like cardboard. So I would love for you to join me in that, and I look forward to learning more. Since starting this channel a couple weeks ago, I have really been encouraged and challenged in myself to go further and research a little bit more as much as I can. There's so much information out there that it's easy to find information, but it's almost too easy to find information sometimes. So I do learn little bits here and there, and I would love to share those with you. Let me know what you are most interested in. I don't necessarily want to only be a channel for people with food restrictions. I also have, ever since forever, I've been cooking on a budget. So there are other things that I do that are not necessarily going to only be speaking to anyone who cannot also have gluten and possibly corn as well. I do things such as save all my bones from chicken, or whatever meat has bone in that I do cook. I save that for bone broth, and in doing that, I discovered the best way of making rice is with bone broth. I will never make rice with water again. I say that I have done it because I go through bone broth so much, so frequently, that sometimes I run out of it and forget. But anyhow, I want to be here for anyone who is on this journey themselves or needs to know how to make something for a family or a friend, a family member or a friend. I have never myself gone vegan, but I do have friends who are vegan, so I have delved into that realm as well, and it is nice when I have found bloggers and content YouTubers who explain why certain things are on a very basic level, because I'm not vegan. I still needed to know things that would be very obvious to another vegan, but because they took that time, I was able to cook successfully for my friends, which I really appreciate. So I want to be here for that as well. And yeah, so let me know what you would be interested in seeing, either meals on a budget, specific meals to be made gluten-free, or corn-free, or dairy-free. Yeah, let me know down below, and until next time.